proper equipment for gigs and shows. Uh, Real quick, guys. So there was a lot of confusion online about how you set up a gig, what equipment you choose to bring and use on stage. So for me being the guitarist, I can tell you that a standard venue, right? I say standard venue as in like a lot of bars, clubs, grills, bar and grills, in that sense. Most of them have a pretty standard square footage, and even the only exception is usually the layout. There might be an extra wall here or there, or where there might be additional monitors set up in different corners of the room or of the venue compared to other places. But aside from setup and layout, most of the generalized way that a PA system is set up is usually in conjunction with your equipment. So you should never have to worry about bringing your equipment to a venue unless you're severely overpacking, right? Like if you show up to a small venue and you've got a full stack, you're probably going to have problems no matter what. But generally, a half stack or smaller is usually best. I'd say if you want to limit yourself to a half stack, but it also sometimes depends on your amp and what you're using. Let's say if you're using a head and cab, it depends on the head that you're using. If you're using a 100 watt EVH 6L6, then I'd say you probably doesn't even matter what type of speaker cab you're using. You could use a 212 and that thing is still gonna rain thunder, you know, just the same as if it was a full stack or, using a 412 cab. So, anyway, when it comes to PA equipment setup, I've noticed that there are a lot of venues and a lot of sound guys that try to get away with using condenser mics instead of dynamic mics. So, just to give you an example, a Shure SM57, which is a considered, an example of a proper guitar mic, right? A guitar speaker mic. That is a dynamic mic. Okay, so that's what you want, specifically for guitar, for sure. And when you have sound guys that try to hook up a condenser mic in front of a guitar speaker, they are, those condenser mics are way too sensitive. Okay, but that being said, I want to go through what happened at a gig. On two different occasions, I brought my 50 watt Stealth. By all standards, a 50 watt Stealth can do small venues all the way up to large venues without a problem, right? Um, Larger ones, especially with a good PA system. However, if your sound guy is hooking up a condenser mic and you throw on the red channel, right? Just specific or any lead or high gain channel, right? On a tube amp, and you're pushing, you're bringing that volume to 1 out of 10, right? Maybe you go to 1.5 out of 10, maybe even 2. If you're at 2 and your sound guy is telling you to turn down, you go to 1.5, he's still saying it's a little too loud. Your problem is not the amp. Your problem is not the choice of equipment that you're bringing. Your problem is your sound guy. Okay? So if your amp is loud enough where it can be heard in front of the stage and surrounding area, but it doesn't quite carry over to maybe like another section of the venue, then the PA speakers on the stage should be turned off or turned down, right? So it shouldn't be that he's only turning the input signal up or down. It should be the output of the monitors and each specific monitor as well. Okay. Secondly, he needs to get rid of that goddamn condenser mic because that is not doing you or him any favors. It's got to be a dynamic mic. Okay. So, and the other reason I say this is because if you're using a tube amp, you know that you need to bring that tube amp to a certain volume at least within a certain volume range, in order to get that sound, right? To get that full tube tone, right? And that doesn't mean you got to crank the thing to 11, right? You don't even need to crank it halfway. It doesn't even need to be anywhere near there. But generally in the tube amps, especially the EVH 5150s, you got to bring the volume to at least 2 out of 10. 2.5, right? And if you can't even get past 1.5 without being yelled at, it's not the amp. It's not you. It's the sound guy, and it's the PA system and or mic that he's using. So guys, when you see people that say, well, you only need 1 watt on stage, or you only need 5 watts, right? 5 watts is good. 5 watts is plenty. But the wattage is not for the entire venue to hear. It's for you to hear on stage. Because if, at most, you're only going to have a couple of PA speakers that are on stage with you. And I'm going to tell you right now, if, even with your amp placed properly behind, adjacent to where the drummer is, I'm telling you, he's not going to hear it. You're not going to hear it. You're going to have to turn up, right? So the wattage is not about shoving that volume across the entire venue through the amp. It's about hearing it on stage. So think about it this way. How many watts do you need? How much power and volume do you need to hear yourself and for your drummer to be able to hear you? Because think about it. You got to at least match the volume of the drums on stage no matter what, right? The only real exception to that is if you have PA in-ear monitors, right? Where you have the headphone, the headphones where you can actually hear everything because it's coming through the PA into your ears, as opposed to just hearing what's on stage in front of you or behind you. So I kind of wanted to clear that confusion up at least a little bit in terms of, well, is this going to be enough? Can I play a show with this? It's not about what I think. It's going to be about, if you're playing with a drummer, can that amp you're using match the volume without struggling, without being pushed too hard? That's really what it comes down to. And it comes down to basics anyway. If you're going to be jamming, let's say in a studio with a drummer and a couple other musicians, or maybe just a drummer and bassist, whatever, can your amp match that volume? If so, then that's the volume you should be playing at on stage, regardless of the PA system. Doesn't matter. Because if you can't hear yourself, it doesn't matter. If your drummer can't hear you, it doesn't matter. So I hope this kind of clears up at least a little bit of the confusion as far as what gear you need for live use, right? Or even full-on band rehearsals, because what you use in rehearsal, you should be able to use during the live show. Always same levels, same volume levels, same everything. You might have to adjust certain frequencies because depending on the venue, and how it differs from your studio space or your practice space. But that's it. That's all. So anyway, questions, comments, leave them below. I'll do my best to answer. This was supposed to be just a real short video, kind of explain a few things because I had a few minutes of spare time. So anyway, let me know. Oh, and also, Fuel Heavy's YouTube is up and running. I just uploaded one of the videos from Sunday's gig. I think it was just the one, yeah. So we got a few others from the previous gig as well, and I'll be posting more content periodically. Run over to Fuel Heavy's page. I will have the link down below if I can find a way to post the link down below. And comment, like, share. See you next time.